Do start with Manchester United, who have confirmed they expect to make a further 200 redundancies as part of what they call a transformation plan to strengthen financial sustainability and return to profitability. Let's get much more on that. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, is alongside me. Good afternoon. What does that mean then?
Well, it means that up to another 200 people who are employed by Manchester United could be losing their jobs. This is on top of the 250 roles that have already been removed last year. The background to this, of course, is that INEOS and Jim Ratcliff bought a 25% stake in United just over a year ago. And since they've come into the club, they have looked at areas where they can make changes. I think in their opinion, they can make the business leaner, more streamlined, to make it fit for 2025 and the future. And they have identified roles that can be made redundant. And that is what they have been doing. And in the statement we've just had in the past hour from the chief executive, Omar Barada, he says we are initiating a wide-ranging series of measures which will transform and renew the club. Unfortunately, this means announcing further potential redundancies, and we deeply regret the impact on those affected colleagues. However, these hard choices are necessary to put the club back on a stable financial footing. We've lost money for the past 5 consecutive years. This cannot continue. Our 2 main priorities as a club are delivering success on the pitch for our fans and improving our facilities. We cannot invest in these objectives if we are continuously losing money.
Now, last week, it marked a year since INEOS took their stake and took control of football operations at Manchester United. There were a lot of pieces about, I guess you would call it potentially penny pinching if you wanted to, or streamlining. It's not just redundancies that are being put in place by INEOS to change things at Manchester United.
No, I think going forward, we are going to see more staff moving from Old Trafford to working at Carrington. Of course, Carrington is being redeveloped at the moment. Also, I think there will be a reduced presence at Manchester United's offices in London. If you remember, under Ed Woodward, for instance, United always had a presence in central London. Their offices used to be in Mayfair. I think they've moved to High Street, Kensington. That was to have the people who sort of negotiate United's commercial deals based in London, because the thinking was that it was easier to meet interested parties who wanted to do business with United in London rather than in Manchester. I think going forward there will still be a London office for United, but more of the people who work in London will be moving to Manchester. Also, a couple of other things to clear up. I know there have been some reports today about the fact that if you work at United's training ground and you're not a member of the first team squad, the catering arrangements are going to change for you. I've seen headlines saying that you'll only be getting soup and sandwiches. I think the guidance we are getting is that Carrington catering arrangements will remain unchanged for the remainder of the season. But of course, as at every other club, there is a difference between the food that first team players, the first team, the academy and the women's teams are served compared to what other people who work at the training ground get. Also, we're being told there will be an end to free lunches for staff at Old Trafford. Again, that's in line with most workplaces, and United believe that that will save them around £1 million a year. Also, just to clarify, Manchester United's annual donation to the Manchester United Disabled Supporters Association, which is about £40,000 a year, that is remaining unchanged.
A lot of it doesn't feel great for morale, though, does it?
I mean, of course it doesn't. You know, people are losing their jobs, and a lot of the people losing their jobs are not the people who are responsible for the fact that United have lost something like £300 million over the past 3 years. Now, if you look at why United are struggling financially, those people are not the people to blame, really. The problem has been the vast sums of money that have been spent in the transfer market, a lot of that money has been spent on players who have not delivered on the pitch. Also, the fact that the executives at United have made some decisions, some mistakes that have cost the club a lot of money. For instance, giving Erik ten Hag a new contract and then having to pay him off.
Dan Ashworth.
Employing Dan Ashworth and then him leaving so quickly and having to be paid off. Again, these people who are losing their jobs are not responsible for that. And of course, when you're talking about United and finances, you have to talk about their ownership model. Being owned by the Glazer family has cost Manchester United well over £1 billion over the last 19 years. And I've said this again before, and I'll say it again. When the Glazers bought Manchester United, they borrowed £604 million. They loaded that debt onto the club. The club have paid £834 million in interest on that debt. And 19 years later, that debt has gone up to £731 million. 19 years ago, they borrowed £604 million. The debt is now £731 million, and £834 million has been paid out on interest. This is a club who were debt-free when the Glazers bought Manchester United. These figures are from the Swiss Ramble blog accounts. You can look at them yourself. They are based on Manchester United's accounts over the last 19 years. Also, United owe £391 million in transfer payments. So their total debt is £1.1 billion. In the past 10 years, the Glazer family have taken out dividends of £177 million. And just over a year ago, they sold 25% of the club for around £1 billion to INEOS.
Just a quick final point then. And you would say that, because Ruben Amorim has mentioned it recently, that all of this has a knock-on effect to what he can do with the team. And he has spoken in recent weeks about, don't expect us to be able to regenerate the squad heavily, because quite simply, if we're not in the Champions League, the money isn't there anymore.
No, being out of the Champions League probably costs United ballpark figure of around £100 million a year. So that hurts them massively. Yes, you're absolutely right. Ruben Amorim is not going to have significant funds to spend in the transfer market. But if you look at Manchester United's accounts, they are still a very, very valuable club. They have a massive fan base. Their commercial income is one of the best in the world. There is no reason why, if Manchester United were debt-free and run properly, why they could not be as successful as they were under Sir Alex Ferguson.